All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, today we're going to talk about the Adelson family. Nobody beats the Adelsons. Well, the Adelsons were beat this week. I'm sure everybody saw, but 3 days ago, on Monday of this week, Charlie Adelson, the beloved son in the Adelson family, was found guilty of first-degree murder, that's a rough one. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, that's a stinger. And solicitation of first-degree murder. All for 9 years ago hiring two Latin King gang members to kill his baby sister, Wendy Adelson's ex-husband, Dan Markel. When they read out the first guilty verdict in court, Charlie Adelson went, "No," which is a big difference from the past 9 years where Charlie has carried himself as some gangster, the head of a dangerous crime family that's not to be messed with. They have him on recording talking to someone going, "If they had any evidence against us, we'd already be at the airport." What are you talking about, Charlie? You would have no idea if they had any evidence against you. They actually have a mountain of evidence against you. They're actually recording that conversation right now where he's going, "If they had any evidence, we'd already be at the airport." Charlie, did you watch another gangster movie this past weekend? You're talking out of your butt again. And then there's another story where I guess Charlie was in the hot tub, so picture the bubbles and the foam and Charlie's chest hair out. I picture him smoking a big Fuente to really ram his points home, but he's going, "It was perfect. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about." Cut to him in court with dark circles under his eyes. No! These attempts to hire a hit, especially Charlie, you're a periodontist, your dad's a dentist, you grew up a rich dentist kid. These stories of someone that's living the normal non-crime, the white teeth dentist life, thinking they can step into the crime underbelly world and order a hit and it's all gonna go perfect, and I did it. That was not too bad. I'm a gangster crime boss. These stories of the failed hits turn into comedy gold because they start out with a plan that's beyond bad. How could you ever think that was going to work? And then inevitably the terrible plan doesn't go to plan and ends up being worse than the initial terrible plan. And then people like Charlie are in court dumbfounded when they're reading the guilty of first-degree murder going, how did this go so bad? I thought I was the head of a crime family. And we're going to go all the way back, but first I want to talk about the burning question on everybody's mind that's been following this one for a decade. So, in 9 years, it's taken a while. COVID severely delayed the whole thing, but it's taken 9 years. The two Latin King gang members that did the hit, they've been convicted and sentenced. The Latin King gang member's baby mama that was the connection to the Adelson family, she's been arrested and convicted and sentenced. But this was the first time this week that the long arm of the law made it into the Adelson family. So now the question is, who's next? Does Wendy Adelson, who was married to Dan Markel, her brother hired a hit to kill the ex-husband. They're in a horrible, nasty divorce. So is Wendy Adelson next? And the mom, Donna Adelson. Like I said, we're going to go all the way back. But for people that know this story like the back of their hand, you would have to be a moron to not think that Wendy Adelson and Donna Adelson were a part of the whole thing, and not just a part, a big part of the whole thing. And so the question is now, does Wendy get arrested? She's testified in multiple of the trials. We've seen her up on the stand for hours and hours. Does Wendy get arrested now? And does Donna, the maniacal, control freak, matriarchal mother of the family, which families like this always have the maniacal control freak mother at the helm, where they're very nice and their house is really nice and they're very accommodating if you happen to go over to their house. The family that was in the town that I grew up in that reminded me of the Adelsons. One time I went over to their place for dinner, and everybody was really nice and good looking and smiling, and the house was beautiful. And the mom came up and she said, "Scott, can I take your coat?" And she was really nice and there was nothing. But then I had this snap vision that she grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed me in the neck. And then I popped back to reality and she was still smiling, going, "Can I take your coat, Scott?" And I was like, "Yeah. Sure, here it is." And so the question that everybody's asking is, are they going to be arrested? And in my opinion, they have to. It would be crazy to not arrest Wendy and Donna Adelson and put them through the ringer of a trial, even if the prosecutors don't have what they think is a knockout case. They're thinking, I don't know, we have Charlie, we got a bunch of pretty damn good evidence for Charlie, but it drops off a tiny bit for Wendy and Donna. I don't think it matters. Even if deep down they think, I don't know if this case is going to stick, you have to do it anyway. Put on a brave face, strut into court with the confidence that you have the best case of all time. Try to get a grand jury to do it. And if you lose, if they slither out of the charges, then they do. And then if you're the lawyer, if you're Georgia, the prosecutor, walk out into the press conference and say, "We put on a brave face and a confident face, but to be honest, we were always a little bit not happy with the evidence we had for Wendy and Donna, but it was only fair to Dan Markel, who was shot in his driveway because of the Adelson family. It was only fair to him that we try." And listen, it didn't stick, but I think they could do it, and we'll see what happens. But let's go all the way back. I know a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about if you haven't been following this one. So let's talk about the Adelson family. Everybody has experience with a family like the Adelsons where they're real nice to you, but you could tell they would easily slit your throat and walk away without looking back if you got in front of their family at all. If you messed up the ultimate goal of the Adelsons, then you're going to get it. And so picture a family tree. At the top, the dad is Harvey Adelson and the mom is Donna Adelson. And then they have 3 kids, but we're only going to talk about 2 of them. 2 boys and the baby girl. She's the youngest, and everybody that knows the family, and it's come up a lot, that the youngest, Wendy Adelson, like a lot of times with the youngest, she was given a lot of help and a lot of support, and maybe she isn't the most independent or took the longest to become independent. And Donna Adelson, the controlling, maniacal, matriarchal mother, was really involved in Wendy's life and making sure her youngest child that maybe wasn't so worldly as much as her other kids, everything worked out right for Wendy. So you have Harvey, who was a dentist, a successful dentist. He opened the Adelson Institute, and at its peak, it was making $2 million profit a year. Donna Adelson, the controlling matriarchal mother, worked at his dentist practice doing administration work. So they're a dentist family. They have 3 kids, but like I said, I'm only going to talk about 2 of them. Charlie becomes a periodontist and slowly is buying the Adelson Institute from his parents. And then you got Wendy, the youngest, who is a lawyer. She marries Dan Markel. They have 2 boys together, and then they're in the midst of a brutal, awful divorce. And where things turn criminal is during this divorce, the Adelson family, especially Donna, wants Wendy and the 2 boys, her grandchildren. All right, you're getting a divorce with Dan Markel. It's time for you to move back, be closer to home. She loved her 2 grandchildren boys. They were a big part of her. She called them her sunshines. So she's like, all right, you guys are getting a divorce. We hate Dan Markel, your ex-husband. It's time for you and the boys to move close to home so we can be around the grandchildren. And Dan Markel, the now ex-husband, the father of his 2 boys, were like, no, you can't take the boys and move. No, sorry. And Donna Adelson, the mom, did not like that. The control freak mother does not like to feel like she's out of control. And as she started to feel like she lost control with seeing her grandkids and how this divorce was going for her daughter, Wendy, she started to go crazy. And you'd almost have to, because anyone with a clear mind, once it comes to, should we hire 2 Latin King gang members to kill Dan Markel? Anyone with a clear mind would go, no. You want to go to jail forever? You want to bring in Latin King gang members into our lives? They're going to know who we are. They're going to know we have a bunch of money. That's the dumbest idea I have ever heard. Wendy's going to have to figure out how to deal with this divorce the legal way and try to land on her feet with the grandkids and everything. So the divorce is going terrible. The first big thing is Donna's like, all right, Wendy and the boys, you're going to move close to us. And Dan goes, the husband that was murdered goes, no, you're not going to relocate. And then Wendy tried to submit a motion in the divorce proceedings that she could move back. And it's like, I would like to move back towards my parents. And that was denied. And again, Donna is just shaking. I don't have control anymore. And she really starts going nuts. And the kids they're Jewish kids. Both Dan and Wendy are Jewish, so they have Jewish kids. So Donna's going, you should dress up the kids like the Hitler Youth to just throw Dan Markel off and to shake him up. She has all these crazy ideas. And then she's going, what if we paid Dan Markel $1 million to let us bring the kid, to let her relocate? Again, they never ended up doing that. But the main thing that kicked this whole thing off, what it appears at least, is the kids are hanging out with Donna, the grandma, and then they go back and hang out with their dad, who isn't speaking with the Adelsons anymore. And the kids are saying, Grandma said that, you're stupid or something. I can't remember exactly, but Grandma said this about you, and Grandma said that about you, and Grandma. And Dan Markel is going, well, I'm not going to send my boys over to the Adelsons so psycho Donna Adelson can badmouth me to my 2 sons. So he puts in a motion in the divorce proceedings that Donna Adelson, the grandmother that couldn't love her little 2 grandsons more, can't see her grandsons anymore without supervision. And that's the point where Donna Adelson apparently stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She's the biggest worrier there is, apparently. Any little tiny disruption in her life and she can't eat and she can't sleep. Again, why would you hire a hit with the Latin King gang members? Hiring a hit and bringing a bunch of people in that have the knowledge that you did this and they have your freedom. If I tell anybody about this, you're going to go to jail forever. To bring all those people in a crime that you could lose your freedom forever, you're basically saying, I never want to have peace of mind ever again. There's always going to be a worry in your head. What if the person that we set the hit up with, what if our relationship deteriorates and they're mad? Or what if they get arrested and they're getting pressure? Who else did this with you? They're probably going to fold. You never get to relax again. So the biggest worrier on the planet, Donna Adelson, somehow thought that it was a good idea. All right, we got to get rid of Dan. But she stopped eating. She's worried that the motion is going to go through, that she can't see her grandkids without supervision. And then at that point, Charlie Adelson, who's a periodontist, he's a playboy, he's dating all these women in Florida. The woman he happens to be dating right at that time is a woman named Katie. And Katie's baby daddy is a Latin King gang member named Sigfredo Garcia, which sounds like a character from a Nancy Brophy novel. It's like Sigfredo Garcia came through the door shirtless, muscles rippling from a long 6 weeks of Navy SEAL training. But anyway, Charlie Adelson's a periodontist. He's doing the dental thing. He happens to be dating someone named Katie. And as the Adelson family make the terrible decision, let's hire a hit to get rid of our baby sister's ex-husband. She's in a terrible divorce. I picture myself kind of a gangster crime boss. Been watching a bunch of gangster movies. And so Charlie Adelson asks the woman of the week, he had a ton of girlfriends, asked the girl he's dating, do you know someone that could hurt someone? And Katie goes, yeah, I do. Thinking of her baby daddy, Sigfredo Garcia, that's a Latin King gang member. And here's what's so nuts about making the decision to actually do it. I get fantasizing about hiring a hit. I get all that. But what's so nuts about actually doing it is, how does Charlie or anyone in the Adelson family not think, Charlie, you date a new person every couple weeks, every month, and then the relationship falls apart inevitably and you get another girlfriend. So what makes you think that Katie, the baby mama of a Latin King gang member, what makes you think this is the one that, yeah, we could set up a crime that could land all of us in jail for life, and I'm sure she'd be trustworthy. The sole fact that she would agree, yeah, I can help you with this hit, would be a deal breaker. Oh, I'm not going to do it with you. You'll turn on me in an instant. So he talks to the girlfriend at the time, Katie, you know someone? And she goes, yeah, my baby daddy's a Latin King gang member. So they set it up that Charlie is going to pay them $138,000 up front. And then it turned into $138,000 up front for doing the hit, and then like $2,000 or $3,000 every month indefinitely, forever, which part of it was to keep Katie happy so she wouldn't rat. But think about that. That has to be the worst deal. That has to be the most overpay for a hit of all time. You could probably find someone in the ghetto to do it for $10,000. 138 up front and then $3,000 a month forever is a terrible deal, Charlie. And so they come up with this deal. They pay. All right, they actually don't pay yet. And so here's where it gets really interesting. So Wendy, who was dating Dan Markel, who now her family is hiring a hit to kill Dan Markel during the horrible divorce. Wendy now is dating some new guy, but they kind of break up. And so as they're planning the hit, this new guy that she was dating and then broke up, he's testified in these trials, and he goes, yeah, I was like planning to take a trip, and this Wendy Adelson, who I dated for a little bit, she's going through some terrible divorce with some other guy, but I'm dating this woman, we kind of broke up, but she called me and goes, hey, are you going on that trip that you were going on? And I was like, yeah. She goes, when are you leaving for that trip? And he's going, I think I'm leaving tomorrow. And she goes, what route are you taking? And Wendy Adelson's, in my opinion, I think you'd be crazy not to think so, Wendy Adelson was trying to set it up so the hitmen would kill her ex-husband Dan Markel right as her new boyfriend was headed out of town, so it would put his cell phone right at the same time and in the same area. You're trying to frame the new guy. So I think his testimony, if they wind up arresting Wendy, which I think they have to, I think his testimony would be pretty good. But how psycho is that? The new guy, and only for he decided to leave the night before. He was going to leave the next day, and Wendy's like, what route are you taking? What exact time are you going? But he decided, I don't think he was suspicious or anything, but he said, you know what, I'm going to leave the night before. So luckily he had some great alibi. He was at Kmart hours away, and so it didn't stick. But let's go over the planning of this hit. So you have Charlie the periodontist that thinks he's a gangster. You have his girlfriend at the time, Katie, who has a kid with a Latin King gang member. So they're talking about it. The Latin King gang members are coming down. Charlie's paying for all of this, reconnaissance, and they're trying to figure it out. So they're coming down and following Dan around and then going back, and then, all right, today is the day. So they need an alibi for Wendy. They know Wendy, as the spouse, is going to be the first suspect. So how they do that is Donna, the control freak matriarchal mom, makes a TV repair appointment with the Geek Squad. So she has an alibi of, I didn't kill my ex-husband. I was home waiting for the Geek Squad. And actually the Geek Squad was there during it happened, so I have an alibi. It couldn't have been me. The problem, though, is it's a little bit suspicious. Wendy, on the day of the hit, drove and picked up something at a liquor store. She was going to go to a Stock the Bar party that night. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but the day her ex-husband was killed because of a hit her family ordered, she went and bought, right at the same time, Bullet Bourbon. And so she's driving back with her Bullet Bourbon as he is shot to death in his driveway, and she kind of goes to the scene. So they've pressed her on that for these 9 years. Why did you go? Don't you think that's a little bit? And she's going, no, sometimes I drive that way, but other times I drive that way. But let's put ourselves right before the Adelsons really kick off and decide we're definitely doing it. So you have Charlie Adelson. He's the periodontist. He got the woman he's dating. They're getting it all planned together. And I don't know how Charlie thinks bringing all of these people in is ever going to work. And if he's ever going to be able to relax ever again. And so they pull off the hit. The 2 Latin King gang members come in. They kill Dan Markel in his driveway, and they drive back, I think, to Tallahassee, or maybe it was the opposite. They drive back a few hours to where they are. So the hit's done. They bring in Wendy. I think I might talk about her interrogation. They bring in Wendy. They tell her, oh my God, she has this like fake cry thing. And then Katie, who set up the hit with her baby daddy, and she's dating Charlie, the periodontist, they go to Charlie's place and they take a Xanax because they're probably just, oh man, it just happened. This is crazy. Are we going to be arrested? Did we pull it off? Holy smokes, we really did it. We pulled off the hit. So they take a Xanax. They wake up the next morning. The 2 Latin King gang members, as you can imagine, want to get paid. So Charlie opens up the safe and hands the $138,000, which Charlie and the Adelsons, they have a habit of stapling their stacks of money together. So they didn't think, again, real brilliant crime mind, didn't think, let's take off our signature staples before we pay the hitman. So they handed off the money all stapled like the Adelsons always do it. And Katie, who's getting the money, who had just a nice Zanny the Nanny sleep, but now she's going to go pay her baby daddy, Latin King gang members. She gets the money, and she says the money was wet. And I thought an interesting part was she speculated that Donna, the crazy matriarchal control freak mother, probably cleaned the money. That's why it was wet. Sat there and tried to scrub all of the fingerprints off of it. So then they get the money. And then here's where just a horrible deal for the Adelson family. Not only do they have to cough up the $138,000, now every month Charlie is paying Katie $3,000, another $3,000. And as he's up on the stand, they're going, why would you pay her over and over again and not come to the cops? It doesn't make sense. And the only thing he has left to say in his trial is they were extorting me, but I don't want to get there quite yet. So she goes off with the wet, damp money that she thinks Donna hilariously scrubbed. Oh my gosh, I hope we get away with this. Scrubbed the money off of, or scrubbed the fingerprints off of, and then everything slows way down. And you can imagine there isn't much peace of mind for the Adelsons. I always think, like, was this worth it? Was the stress of the bad divorce even anywhere close to the stress of going to prison forever and having to live in a concrete fart hole because the divorce was so bad? And over the next couple years, it's almost like a comedy skit. Anytime they would get stressed out, are they onto us or anything? Donna would call Charlie, and then Charlie would call Katie, and then Katie would call the Latin King. So it was this hilarious phone train. Anytime they got stressful, everybody would call each other. So just think, you're the law enforcement trying to crack this thing, trying to figure out how do we arrest everybody and get it properly closed down. And you're watching everybody, something a little bit stressful happens, and you get to see they all call each other. So, these are the people. You wouldn't call someone and talk about the hit with your freedom on the line right when something stressful happened if they weren't a part of it. So it's definitely Donna, and I think they were keeping Wendy separated just so she wouldn't get everybody caught. So it's Donna and Charlie and Katie, who he was dating for a while, and then the Latin King gang members. So the law enforcement at that point decided, all right, we need to do something to shake everything up, and what's called the bump event, which is pretty funny. So they had a big, burly, undercover officer walk up to Donna. Donna was just walking down the Florida street. It's Florida, it's sunny. And this guy comes up to her, and he hands her a newspaper clipping of the Dan Markel murder with like his phone number, and it says $5,000 on it. And he says, look at this and give me a call. So think about little worrywart Donna. I'm sure she's thinking, what have we done? Now I'm getting approached on the street by giant gangster men handing me a newspaper article of the murder we pulled off 2 years ago. Why did we do this? This is going so terrible. So then, of course, she has to call Charlie and go, Charlie, this guy came up to me on the street and handed me a newspaper clipping of Dan's murder, and he wants $500. And we're being extorted now by the Latin Kings. Do something about it, Charlie. And Charlie's furious that somebody contacted his mom. So Charlie calls the number, which is just the police. And Charlie's going, yeah, somebody contacted my family. I'm trying to figure out who. And the story that the police had is so funny. They're going, my brother is one of the ones that you paid to kill Dan, and he's in prison, and he's not being taken care of financially. The way you're taking care of Katie every month financially, you're not taking care of my brother. But the story is like there's a character in it named Tito, and there's a character named like I don't know. There's two like Tudo needs the money from Tito, and it like the whole thing sounds like the movie Burn After Reading, where it's like, is this Osborne Cox? But anyway, think of the worry. Charlie and Donna are now going, we're getting approached on the street. This isn't going good. We're being extorted. Well, finally they arrest Charlie Adelson, and a big part of it is they knew that Katie was going to testify. She had already been arrested and convicted. First, they got the two Latin King gang members, and then they got Katie, and then they arrested Charlie, and Charlie's trial, like I've been talking about, was ended this past week. And let me think, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, so kind of funny. So picture you're the prosecutors. You arrest Charlie, and you're thinking, all right, what is the defense going to do? They have to come up with something, and they knew it was going to be, because they knew Charlie was paying Katie all this money every month, so it's like, how are they going to explain that? They're probably going to say he was being extorted, and that's exactly what the defense case was, and it's a hilarious story. This was Charlie's defense, is that these two Latin King gang members came to their town, killed his sister's ex-husband, Dan Markel, to let Charlie know, hey, we mean business. Look what we did to your brother-in-law. What kind of funny is, at that point, the person that Charlie hated the most in the world was Dan Markel. So he had to, with this story, say, yeah, the Latin King gang members just happened to come down and kill the one person that I wanted dead to show me that they don't mean business. Believable, right? And so the story that Charlie's defense was this: the Latin King gang members that knew about him because he was dating the baby mama came down, killed the one person he wanted to be dead to scare him, and then to say, look, we'll do that to you if you don't pay us the $138,000 and then the $3,000 every month. Well, you would think if somebody's getting extorted by the Latin King gang members and forced to pay $3,000 a month, they're not going to be happy about it. And most likely at some point they're going to say, the hell with this, I'm going to the police. I'm not going to sit here and pay $3,000 every month to Katie to give to the Latin King gang members. We're going to figure this out. But Charlie, in all the text message, he's happy about it. He's giving more money to Katie. Oh, Katie, you need to go on a trip, a cruise with your mom. Here's the money. Because Charlie has to keep Katie happy because she has the information that can put him away for life, which is one of the main reasons I would never hire a hit with a bunch of different people or anything, because as soon as they know that, you have to make sure you're in good standing with them, or if they're like, you know what, screw you, I hate you, I'm mad at you, never talk to me again, and they drive off into the sunset, it's like, they know that I hired that hit. What if they get arrested? So Charlie is keeping her happy, which just isn't realistic, right? So obviously the prosecutor is going, so let me get this straight. If someone's extorting you every month, $3,000, they killed your brother-in-law, why are you sending Katie texts saying, I love you, and happily giving her the money over and over again? And all Charlie could say is, I just thought that she was protecting me against the Latin Kings. The money amount of extortion every month, the $3,000, wasn't going up. And he goes, a lot of times extortion amounts go up, but this one wasn't going up. And again, it's like, Charlie, what are you talking about? You're a periodontist. You're not a crime boss, okay? I don't know what to tell you. You work at the Adelson Institute. Every prediction and decision you've made regarding crime has been beyond bad, and that's why you're in life in prison. And so his only defense was totally hilarious and absurd, is I was getting extorted by these people, and I didn't go to the police because I was scared, and I was happy to see the person extorting me because I thought she was protecting me, and it didn't fly in court, and the jury only deliberated for a couple hours. It wasn't some big hard decision. And just like that, Charlie Adelson, the Florida periodontist, is found guilty. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but it's going to be a long time. And like I said, the burning question is now, do they arrest Wendy and do they arrest Donna? They have to. It just would be absurd. Even if they can't get it to stick, you gotta try. And I'm gonna end this one with this made me think of a pretty funny mother-in-law story from 2 years ago. The mother-in-law in this story is actually my mom, but it has to do with my brother-in-law. So it's my mom's his mother-in-law. But anyway, so we go home 2 years ago. We go back to Grand Junction, my hometown. Me and my wife go to my parents' house, and my sister and her husband and their kid. Also, we all go back to my parents' house in the hometown for a big family Christmas. Well, the 2 days after Christmas, we had all planned to meet another family at a restaurant. So we drive to the restaurant. It's freezing cold. The parking lot has a bunch of snow and ice, and it's a cold Colorado 2 days after Christmas night. And we pull up into the parking lot and park. And as we get out of the car, we're in the parking lot. My mom sees someone she knows and goes over. They're driving. They're about to drive away. So she's leaning into their car. And my brother-in-law, who's carrying the grandbaby, is walking into the restaurant. It's a cold night. Getting into the restaurant and settling in did sound good. But my mom calls over. She goes, hey, I want to show my friends here the grandchild, my grandbaby. My sister and her husband are only in their hometown 1 week a year. And so this is the only week that she gets to show off the grandbaby. And so, but my brother-in-law, who's carrying the grandbaby into the restaurant from the ice-cold, freezing parking lot, is going, nah, I want to go into the restaurant. And my mom, the mother-in-law, goes, get over here. I want to show, and so he's not in the mood to be over and put on display, but he walks over and he shows the grandbaby, and they go, oh my God, it's so cute. And then my mom's friend that was in the car, they drive away. Well, then my brother-in-law turns to my mom and says something like, you don't ever talk to me like that, or don't ever do that something like that. Well, then my mom starts crying and decides she's going to walk home, even though it's freezing and there's snow and she's wearing boots with heels. She wears the worst winter shoes of all time. So and there's also on the road that she would have to walk home on, there's not even a sidewalk. So she would be like hobbling around, a 60-year-old woman on the side of the road walking home. So she leaves, she walks home. And then my dad, who didn't really see that happen, is going, where did your mom go? And we said, she is now walking home. So my dad's like, Jesus, gets back in the car to go pick her up on the side of the road. He pulls out of the parking lot. I turn and lay into my brother-in-law a little bit, being like, dude, it's too much. I get it. Mother-in-laws can be tough, but she wants to show off her grandbaby. It's too much. So I'm laying into the brother-in-law. We're all standing in the freezing parking lot. As I'm laying into the brother-in-law, the family that we're meeting at the restaurant pulls in. So I'm going from, it's too much, what are you doing? All of a sudden to, hi, oh my God, I haven't seen you guys in forever. Wow, good. And then we all go into the restaurant, but it's a little bit weird because my mom and dad aren't there and everybody is sitting there kind of with their nerves frayed a little bit. So we end up telling the family what happened, and they say, well, actually, that makes us feel a little bit better because 2 days ago on Christmas, they had the same thing. The grandparents invited their 2 grown kids over for a big, beautiful family Christmas dinner, and one of their kids' families comes, and the other kid's family comes, and one of the kids, the small children, has a bit of a fever, and this was back when everybody knew way less about COVID, and so one of the kids has a little bit of fever. The other kid is going, you brought over a kid with a fever? Are you crazy? And the kid, the son that has the kid with the fever is going, I don't know, kids have fevers. Were we going to skip Christmas because of a little fever? And the 2 grown boys that have the kids get into a rip-roaring fight and both leave. And the 2 parents are stuck with a completely decorated, beautiful Christmas dinner table, which was still set and decorated and just sitting there collecting dust. 2 days later, as we're telling them the fight we just had in the parking lot, so they go, we feel better. Our Christmas dinner the table is still set and just sitting there because of the fight we had. So, nothing like the holidays. But I'm going to cut it up there. I love you all. Why, Stav and why, Donna and Wendy are going down. Shmita.